Welcome to the IAB UK Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the IAB UK Podcast. I'm James Chandler and you're listening to episode 2 of our special mini-series with YouTube, in which I'm speaking to some of the experts that recently took the stage at YouTube Festival for a deeper dive into some of the themes and topics they covered. In our last episode, we talked about how YouTube has become the epicenter of global culture. But this time, we're turning our attention to a different screen, the biggest one in the home, and asking a big question. Is media fragmentation a thing of the past? Connected TV, or TV Plus as we call it at the IAB, has completely changed the way we watch. People now choose exactly what they want and when they want it. But for advertisers, that shift has made things, well, a little messy. Campaigns spread across platforms, audience overlap, wasted impressions, and ad fatigue. Enter unified CTV, the focus of a brand new white paper from Brainlabs, created in partnership with Google. Joining me to unpack it all are Dyana Najdi, Managing Director at Google Advertising, and Alex Glover, Managing Director of Programmatic at Brainlabs and co-author of the white paper. Before we dive in, just a reminder for those listening rather than viewing, this episode has been filmed. So if you want to watch the full episode, head over to the IAB UK YouTube channel. Okay, let's get on to it. Dyana, CTV right now, is it sort of the most exciting it's ever been?
I mean, we definitely think so. And I don't think that's just because we work in the industry, but we're really seeing that the evolution in viewing behaviors is catapulting traditional media planning into this new era of opportunity. And there's no denying that the pandemic was a really powerful catalyst for this shift in viewing behavior. We saw more demand for streaming platforms. Netflix, in the first few months of 2020, saw 16 million new subscribers, which was double the amount that they had seen in the few months prior. Fast forward to today, the average CTV device in the household has 6 streaming apps installed. So we see that people are really becoming used to service hopping in order to catch the content that they love. And then on YouTube, the living room has been our fastest growing screen for the past 5 years. So there's no denying that there is this profound shift in viewing behaviors that, as you said, is really moving people to watch what they want, when they want, across more channels, formats, and devices. And on one side, this proliferation creates more opportunities and touch points for marketers to reach consumers, but it also presents incredible fragmentation and complexity and essentially fewer shared viewing experiences in the living room and at the same time.
Yeah.
And we saw really insightful data from Enders that showed in 2013, there were 800 programs with audiences over 5 million versus just 226 today. And so it's a big departure from that ability to rely on a single channel to do the heavy lifting for us in terms of finding audiences at scale. But equally with all of the innovations that we're seeing with AI and technology and the power of media unification, it's an opportunity for advertisers to reach consumers as they're enjoying that content across all of these touch points and to do so in a really efficient way. And that's why we're so excited.
I mean, YouTube is 20 years old, which is sort of staggering to think anyway. Was there ever that tipping point where it became more and more about the big screen rather than a small screen that people might be watching on a 4G connection or a laptop or something like
for
that?
sure. I mean, it's been our birthday since January. So we've been celebrating 20 years of YouTube for the whole year. But there were definitely key inflection points. I've been at Google for nearly 18 years. So we saw the rise of mobile, and that was a really key moment for us in terms of shifts from desktop to handheld devices. And then equally over the past few years, as I said, the living room has been our fastest growing screen for 5 years. And even there, we continue to see new trends emerging. What I find really fascinating is that Shorts is actually the fastest growing format in the living room.
On the big screen?
On the big screen. And so consumer behavior and the way that people interact with these media channels is always evolving. And it's an opportunity for us to rethink how we're developing our advertiser products, our consumer solutions to help meet the needs of those moments.
Yeah. Alex, we heard about all the opportunity that's around this sort of brave new world of CTV. With it, it does throw up some challenges. From a planning point of view, what sort of things do you run into now there's all this choice that you've got?
Yeah, I suppose just to touch back on what Dyana was saying, total TV is obviously growing and CTV is a big driver of that, right? So from a planning perspective, when you have to think about meaningfully engaging with your target audience and reaching your target audience, you can't ignore CTV now. It's becoming a much more important channel. The challenges arrive when we sort of talk about that, was it service hopping that you said, right? Consumers are consuming TV in a very different way across multiple different services. And that sort of creates that fragmentation. If you're running in one sort of campaign with multiple different publishers, and you're unable to sort of answer the questions of, am I reaching the same person multiple times, or am I reaching completely different people a certain number of times? And that's a real challenge, because being able to answer those questions allows you to treat your audience as a whole, as one, and sort of optimize your investment and your performance accordingly. So in our paper, we try and sort of tackle that challenge through the lens of like a unified CTV campaign across Netflix and YouTube, all involving a sort of cross-publisher frequency cap, which is sort of a brand new feature that had come out at the time.
Yeah. Tell us about team and structure at Brainlabs as well, in terms of how you're set up. All purely digital people? Is it a mix of kind of old TV planning people and new digital people? How do you do it?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're a full service digital agency, but over the last couple of years, we've really sort of doubled down on like deep product specialism, right? We build our teams around that. We build our grad schemes around that. We structure around it to really focus on that sort of expertise and getting the best out of it. And I think, as a programmatic practitioner for the last God knows how many years, I think being able to apply that into an environment like CTV can really start unpacking some of those amazing things we get in digital, but on this like incredibly impactful screen.
Yeah. Talk to me more about this cross-publisher frequency capping. I mean, you sort of read the white paper and you sort of see this come out. This is kind of your area of expertise as well, hence the smile because of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mouthful, cross-publisher frequency capping, right? Essentially what it is managing that overlap, right? That overlap that you would get if you're running a campaign across different publishers or partners, like I said, where you can't tell if it's the same person or multiple people. And what being able to manage that overlap does, it means that, like I said, we can treat the audience as one. It means we can sort of optimize our campaigns and our campaign budget to that sort of one single goal and make it perform far more effectively for us.
Was there anything that's often with these white papers, you kind of go in with a thought, you want stuff that's going to kind of back it up. Anything that came out that surprised you? Well, I guess two questions. One, did it confirm what you thought it might? And two, any surprises? Yeah,
great questions. In terms of did it perform how we had hoped, maybe not expected, because it was brand new, right? Campaign results were fantastic. From a top line, our brand lift studies saw like 250,000 lifted users. We saw 350% product search lift. We even saw like a huge impact on sales, where we saw like a 400% increase in sales, which was fantastic, right? Clients happy, we're happy. When it comes to that frequency capping, right, and that management of that overlap, I think it's important to sort of mention that frequency capping can kind of sound like a negative, like a restrictive thing. The way we sort of treated this was taking that budget that would have been spent in the overlap and using it to find more new users, more new members of our target audience to engage with. And the results we saw from that, by reinvesting that budget, we saw reaching nearly an additional like 400,000 users that the campaign wouldn't have been able to. Wow. So that sort of proved, right, unified CTV works, great campaign results. And this frequency capping is really simple, but really powerful, right? More reach for the same budget. I feel like every advertiser would love to hear that.
Yeah.
The surprising stuff, which is like the stuff that I really love, was how it opened up our ability to sort of like optimize, apply those sort of programmatic performance principles onto a CTV campaign, right? Some of the tools we have in DV, like those live brand measurement studies, we pulled that by sort of audience and demographic. We identified that there was like a specific audience that were responding super, super well to our campaign. So we used that overlap management and some of the levers that we could pull in the DSP to sort of focus the targeting at that target audience. Use that overlap management to find more new members of that target audience, right? For the same budget, reaching more people that are engaging with your ad. And like the minute we did that optimization, everything spiked and continued on that trajectory. Search lift, brand lift, all of it. So yeah, we were like super, super happy with it. It was a bit of a risk because we'd never done it before. The campaign was already going really well. I could already see the paper, in the sort of corner of my eye coming up, and I didn't want to sort of risk that performance through just a bit of like curiosity. But like, I think it's really cool that you can apply like digital targeting, digital measurement, digital optimization onto a TV campaign.
This report made my year.
Thank
It
you.
is incredibly powerful because, we know it's a no-brainer, but to see it brought to life through such an incredible test is really, really powerful. We had GML earlier this year where I did a talk on media unification and DV360, and I printed out 50 copies or 60 copies, I think, and I put them at the front of the room, and I pointed, there was a room full of customers essentially, and I pointed them to them, and honestly, they were gone in 60 seconds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like people were fascinated and really interested in hearing about this report. And what I found interesting was that you had chosen to do YouTube and Netflix specifically. And I wasn't sure if that was because there was, the highest overlap between those two channels. I know it is quite significant, and that's where you can find the most efficiencies, or if there was another reason.
Yeah, so the sort of synergies of those two platforms was a reason. Like, in truth, I'm going to be honest, the Netflix functionality in YouTube had just launched like days prior to this campaign. So sort of, again, curiosity got the better of me. We knew this concept could work, and I was really, really keen to test it. But obviously, curiosity doesn't get it over the line. Luckily for this campaign, the brand ambassador had also just launched a new piece of content on Netflix. So it was, for the brand's perspective, it was a really nice combination. From my perspective, I got to try something brand new, get our hands on a brand new tool. So yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
I love this idea of all the studies going like hotcakes. What is it that you think is sort of missing? Is it more evidence like this? Is it case studies? Do brands need to be able to see other people doing it? It just sounds like a massive unlock to have had this study and
and that's the power of having partners like Brainlabs who are running these studies and publishing them and really helping give brands the confidence to start testing themselves, because it is quite a shift to be testing new platforms and buying behaviors. So it gives them the confidence through the results of other advertisers or agencies. I think we have brands that have phenomenal results on CTV and media unification. They're not always public, so it's hard to share them more broadly. Sometimes we can use them in meetings, sometimes we can use them on stage, but we're seeing wide-scale results. It's just not always easy to publish case studies and share them more broadly.
Can I ask you about brand building and performance? Often in digital, I think we have a bit of a hang-up that we get pigeonholed into that bottom of the funnel performance bit because you can measure it and it's good for conversion, that kind of thing. Conversely, telly's always been about the brilliance of building brands. YouTube feels like that brilliant spot in the middle, particularly as more and more of it's being watched on the big screen. Are advertisers coming for specific reasons, or is it not as binary as that? It's not brand or performance anymore?
I think I'm going to quote Mark Ritson from Festival last year, because his talk, he spoke about YouTube being able to do it all. And that is the beauty of YouTube. He said it's tofu and bofu. And we had to look
Ritson.
up. At the time, I was like, what does that mean? And then we realized, it's top of the funnel and bottom of the funnel. But that's the power of YouTube. It is a full funnel solution. It's an incredible platform for brand building. And part of that is because there is such a powerful connection between creators and the communities that they build. And it's a wonderful place for brands to build equity and deep engagement. But equally with new solutions such as demand gen, and even if you think of things like shoppable QR codes on the TV set, which are really bridging that relationship between the mobile phone and that lean back experience in the living room. So there are all these exciting innovations that are making YouTube much more versatile in terms of being able to meet multiple marketing objectives for advertisers.
We talked about festival there. Of course, we're just a few weeks out from this year's festival. Tell me about some of the uniqueness of YouTube, I guess. What are those behaviors that you only really see on YouTube that we don't see anywhere else?
Yeah, so we just had YouTube Festival, which is really a special moment for us in the year to celebrate the role of the platform as the epicenter of culture and creativity. And this year was particularly special because it was our 20-year birthday, which will continue for the rest of the year, as we discussed. However, we get to hear from some of the top creators on the platform who come and share about how they produce content for YouTube that builds these thriving communities who are not just audiences, these are fans. They're coming to YouTube to be inspired, to be entertained, to be informed. And they're doing this across more channels and devices. And what's really special is this builds a deep and really authentic relationship between these audiences and the creators that has allowed YouTube to rank as the number one platform by viewers for watching creator content.
Yeah.
And the shifts that we're seeing is that the viewers are increasingly turning to the living room to watch this. Today, 52% of top creator content is actually consumed on a CTV device, which produces a really powerful feedback loop for those creators to then further tailor and develop content to meet that viewer's preference. And at Festival, we heard from creators such as Mark Goldbridge, who has a channel called That's Football.
Yeah.
I'm using an example that I'm assuming will resonate with you both.
Was he as ranty on stage as he is in
He
his?
is so ranty. He's hilarious because he's like this really deep, passionate Man U fan. And he has lots of incredible content, with the match commentaries, the player interviews. And football is a great example because it's a moment that was traditionally singularly viewed on a television set or whatever platform it was streaming on. But on YouTube, we see this phenomena of the game around the game. Viewers want the surround sound experience. They want to see the pre-match highlights. They want to hear the commentary. They want to see the interviews. They want the tutorials. They want, everything that comes with it from creators such as Mark. Yeah. And again, that's another wonderful opportunity for advertisers to tap in and connect with these deeply engaged audiences across more and more moments.
And you would think with someone like Mark, it would be so tribal. It would only really be Man United fans that are watching it, but it's not. It's all sorts of fans because it's about him and it's about community, that sort of stuff. Tell us what you saw with the Women's Euros as well. I mean, huge moment, not just for the Lionesses, but in general.
Yeah, it was. So we recently ran a campaign around the Women's Euros. We've actually written another paper about it, if you'd like to read.
It's all the papers.
It's all the papers. But look, we had a brand with a sort of deep connection and deep affiliation to women's football. And at the time of the campaign, we really wanted to sort of take advantage and make the most of the sort of, the magnitude of this event. But we sort of wanted to do it through the lens of a unified campaign because we know how effective that can be in CTV. So we decided to add in Sky Sports YouTube offering into our mix alongside Netflix and YouTube to run this campaign. And again, results were amazing. All the brand lift studies, everything was great. And actually that sort of added reach number that I talked about before, using that frequency cap to find more of your target audience, we were able to deliver an additional 1.4 million users through this campaign. So it's fantastic. But I think the really interesting point comes when we started looking at between the different partners, their sort of contribution to unique reach, their distribution of unique reach across the course of the campaign was super, super interesting. And we saw, for example, for the 2 days after that, unforgettable semi-final, right, we saw Sky Sports' unique reach numbers and their contribution to total campaign unique reach just dominate the campaign. Going back to what Dyana said, that sort of proves that, this moment lives beyond the broadcast moment, right? And it also proves that users are sort of flocking to these channels to be part of that moment and to continue that moment, that elation, that excitement, the analysis, the build up for the next one, right? And I think the brilliant thing about this is sort of by structuring it in a unified campaign, we were able to dynamically respond to that surge in reach and that demand. At Brainlabs, we're calling it demand-led reach, right? Tapping into those moments, that shoulder content, that game around the game beyond the game, right? And increasingly, we're having more and more opportunities to do that through platforms like DV360.
Yeah. And that's just the brilliant example of you get that sort of power that telly's always had with that supercharged bit of digital. You could never do that in linear TV. It was done months in advance, approved by Clearcast. It goes up and it's kind of done. It's that moment in time. Yeah. But this, I guess, just gives you that flex to move around a little bit.
Games being broadcast on some channels which don't take advertising and things like that. So if you want to really be a part of that moment, so much content around it and it's super, super effective.
Yeah. Clearly, Mark was a favourite of yours from Festival. Other best bits from this year? What else did you love?
I always love hearing from Kevin Oloka, who shares the culture and trends. I mean, it's always insightful to understand, what are the the culture phenomena that are emerging as a result of viewing behavior on
The
YouTube.
pace that he goes at is just incredible. Yeah.
And we also had Amelia de Moldenberg
Oh, yeah.
with Chicken Shop Date. And I think for anyone who hasn't seen that interview with Andrew Garfield,
It's the one where they're sort of flirting intensely.
they're flirting,
with each
but
other.
I think the beauty of it really brings to life why YouTube and that relationship is so special, because you don't just watch the interview, you read the comments. You have to watch the interview and read the comments at the same time. And they are incredible. It's like, the best 14 minutes of entertainment I've seen all year. Like, this is the best love story. I'm paraphrasing badly, but there's like 14,000 comments where people are just expressing such joy and a really, strong affinity with the content that they're viewing. And we saw searches on Google Trends spike for Andrew Garfield as a result of that episode. So you really do see that powerful connection. But yeah, it was wonderful to hear from the creators and then to spend time with them afterwards as well.
Am I right in saying she went to a bunch of like TV production companies as well with Chicken Shop Date? No one wanted to take it and ended up with YouTube.
She tried to take it to the TV studios, and I don't remember what their feedback was, but no one was interested in it. So she set up her own production company. She did everything herself. And she just celebrated her, I think, 10-year anniversary on YouTube.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And she
Good
is
for her.
like
She's
an
amazing.
absolute standout. Takeaways, Alex, advice for advertisers, for brands. Like, how do they put in place some of the stuff that you came across in the white paper?
Can I have 2 takeaways?
Yeah.
Is that allowed?
We'll let you have it.
The first one I would say is it's not just test and learn. It's like test hard, test fast, right? This landscape is changing every single day. New publisher integrations, new audience targeting capabilities, right? If you wait for it to all be perfect, you're going to be left behind. You're not going to know how to sort of manipulate platforms to get the best results from these different sort of touch points and publishers, right? So my first thing would be like test hard, test fast, test early, make your learnings. The second thing would be, and not just because we're here, talking about YouTube, is that if you are going to be testing CTV and running a unified CTV campaign, really think about DV360. I mean, the number of publisher integrations it already has, the number of integrations that are coming down the track, the audience targeting capabilities, the measurement capabilities. It's like I was saying earlier, it really sort of unlocks the power of digital on the big screen, right? You can target, you can optimize, you can measure, you can be reactive, you can get exactly what you need out of your campaigns.
80% of households in the UK.
And 80%, you can reach
Just saying.
80% of households in the UK as well, yeah.
And why wouldn't you? I mean, he's done a pretty good job there, isn't he? But what's your sort of Jerry
Thanks,
Springer's,
Alex.
Jerry Springer's final thought from you?
Well, my first answer would be +1. So we always say, that culture of testing, learning and scaling is really important. And we always say to advertisers that those who get ahead stay ahead.
Yeah.
So really testing fast is really critical. But I'd also build and say that in addition, we've been talking a lot about media planning, but in addition to media planning, I'd say there's an opportunity for advertisers to think about how they're tailoring the creative and the message to suit and be complementary to the viewer's experience. And here we see, it's not just about taking creative from an existing channel and testing it in a new one. It's about really thinking about what's going to work and be most effective in that environment. And on YouTube, we have, a wealth of creative best practices and guidelines. We encourage advertisers to think about asset variety so that the AI can, optimize for different formats and viewing experiences. And then as well as that, creative variety, right? Because we know there's fragmentation, we know there's audience overlap, and there's nothing worse than being bombarded with the same ad across different channels. And this ad fatigue really dilutes brand equity and reduces the efficacy of the ad.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about that. And then we have our ABCDs, which are creative optimization guidelines.
Right.
It's a snazzy ABCD acronym, but it stands for, catch the user's attention early, bring the story arc forward to meet that in different environment where somebody's actually more leaned in. Think about bringing the brand in earlier in the first 5 seconds, create an emotional connection through storytelling and the use of sound, and then give a clear direction and call to action. So those stand for the ABCDs. And we see the results for advertisers who deploy some of those best practices are so much better. And essentially, what we're trying to do is get media dollars to work harder for us and to get more out of the systems and the platforms that we're investing in. So we strongly recommend thinking about that as well.
Brilliant. Thank you. And that wraps up episode 2 of our special YouTube miniseries. A huge thank you to Dyana and to Alex for joining me. If you've enjoyed this episode, don't forget you can watch the full conversation over on the IAB UK YouTube channel. I'm James Chandler, and this has been the IAB UK podcast in partnership with YouTube. Thank you very much for listening and for watching, and we'll see you next time.
IAB UK, building a better future for digital advertising for the benefit of everyone.